You close your eyes, the world fades, and yet something begins, not in your body, but somewhere deeper, quieter, older than memory. They say sleep is rest, a break from reality. But if that were true, why do the dreams feel more real than your waking life? Why do you wake up with tears from a goodbye that never happened? Or a name in your mouth you've never spoken before? There are nights when you close your eyes and wake up somewhere else, in a city you've never seen, but somehow remember, with people you've never met, but who call you by name. You carry those dreams like fragments, fleeting, strange, powerful, and somewhere, deep down, you feel it. There's more to sleep than just shutting down. What if dreams are not just visions, but visits? What if you're not escaping the world, but returning to something your waking self forgot? In this journey, we won't chase fantasies. We'll slow down, look inward, and listen to the rhythms of your sleeping mind, to the places your soul might go, and to the whispers of a truth that only reveals itself when you're not trying to find it. So settle in, breathe deep. This isn't about sleep. This is about awakening. From the inside out, there was a time I believed sleep was just a break, a pause button, like the world dimmed. And so did I. Body down, mind off, wake up, repeat. But then came the night I dreamed of my grandmother. She was sitting at the old wooden table, the one we gave away after she passed. She looked at me, touched my hand, and said one word, "Remember." When I woke, the sun was rising, but inside, something had shifted. It didn't feel like a dream. It felt like I had been somewhere, like I had returned. That night stayed with me, not because of what she said, but because of what I felt. A sense that my soul had gone back to a place my body couldn't follow. And that was the beginning of the question that changed everything. Where do we really go when we sleep? Science tells us the body rests, the brain restores. It talks about stages, REM cycles, memory consolidation, and it's all true, but it's not everything. Because if sleep is just rest, why does the heart ache after a dream? Why do some dreams follow us for years, like songs that never finish? Sleep isn't escape, it's a doorway. And the further I went through it, the more I noticed things, subtle things, patterns, waking up more tired than before, but with a phrase in my mind I had never heard, feeling pulled toward people I hadn't met, but somehow recognized. Dreams that weren't just odd, they were alive, layered, meaningful. One night, I saw myself standing in a room of mirrors, but only one reflection was moving, and that one stepped out. She looked like me, but her eyes were clearer. She smiled and said, "You forgot who you were." That moment cracked something open, not in my mind, in my sense of identity. Because when you start paying attention, you begin to feel it. Sleep isn't where we lose ourselves, it's where we remember. There's a teaching in many ancient traditions that says, the soul leaves the body during sleep, not always far, not always long, but enough to wander, enough to return with whispers, symbols, pieces of the puzzle. I started treating sleep not as shutdown, but as sacred space. I dimmed the lights with intention, placed a journal by my bed, and I asked before drifting off, what do I need to see tonight? Not every night brought answers, but some did. And over time, I realized the version of me that woke up each morning was no longer quite the same. More curious, more open, more whole. The shift didn't come from some grand revelation. It came slowly, through listening, through honoring the inner dimensions I once dismissed as nothing more than dreams. And if you're here, if something in you has ever felt that your sleep meant more than rest, more than science could explain, then you've already begun your own return. And now that we've stepped through that first doorway together, let's take a deeper look at what your body might be telling you, even before your mind catches up. Because sometimes your body knows you're awakening before you do. We'll explore that next. There was a time I used to think that when I fell asleep, my mind powered down, like a screen going black, blank, quiet, off. But then came a dream, or maybe it was something else. I was standing on a shoreline. The ocean wasn't made of water. It was made of stars. And just as I reached out to touch it, everything shifted. I woke up heart pounding, palms sweaty, with the sense that I had been somewhere, that my mind had been working harder than it ever did during the day. That dream stayed with me, not because of what I saw, but because of how real it felt, like my brain wasn't resting at all. It was creating. That night became a question I couldn't ignore. What is my brain actually doing while I sleep? So I started reading, asking, listening to others who had the same feeling. And it turns out, the brain doesn't sleep the way we think it does. Sure, our body slows down, our heartbeat softens, our muscles relax, but inside the skull, activity lights up like a city at night, especially during REM sleep. That's when the visual cortex, the emotional centers, the memory processors, they all become more active than they are when we're awake. That's why dreams can feel so vivid, so emotionally charged, even when they make no sense logically. And there's a reason for that too. The prefrontal cortex, the part of our brain responsible for logic, planning, and self-control, goes quiet during dreaming, which means we aren't filtering, analyzing, or judging. We're just experiencing, raw, wild, real. That's why we can talk to a loved one who passed years ago, and it feels right, or walk through a forest of floating glass, and never question why. It's not broken logic. It's a different mode of logic, the dream logic, the logic of soul language, symbol, emotion, energy. Looking back, I realize my strangest dreams were never random. They were echoes of emotions I hadn't processed, of memories I hadn't faced, of truths I wasn't ready to see in daylight. One dream showed me walking through a house that kept shifting, room to room, each one unfamiliar. But in every room was a version of me, younger, older, angrier, sadder, all watching me, all silent. I didn't understand it at first, but slowly it sank in. My brain wasn't entertaining me, it was introducing me to the selves I had hidden, the selves I had forgotten. Dreams are not stories, they're architecture. Our brain, while we sleep, is rebuilding us, clearing out what we no longer need, stitching together fragments, letting our inner world speak without fear of being interrupted by thought. And that, I think, is one of the most powerful truths I've learned. The brain doesn't sleep. It reconstructs, it revisits, it reminds. So now, when I wake from a vivid dream, I don't brush it off. I write it down. I sit with it. I ask, what are you trying to show me? Because more often than not, there's an answer. And it's not from the world outside me. It's from the world within. The lesson, don't dismiss what happens in the dark. Sometimes, the most important rebuilding happens when we're not watching. But dreams are only part of the mystery, because there's something else, a presence in our sleep that science still struggles to explain. It's the strange stillness, the whisper that someone else is in the room, the moment we wake but cannot move. And that's what we'll explore next. Not just sleep, but the space between waking and dreaming, where something ancient waits. There was one night I'll never forget. I woke up, but I couldn't move. My room was exactly the same. The lamp, the window, the quiet, but something felt off. I couldn't explain it, but I knew I wasn't alone. There was a presence in the corner, silent, still, watching. I couldn't scream, couldn't lift a finger. All I could do was breathe and listen to the pounding in my chest. Back then, I thought something was wrong with me, like my brain had glitched, like I was broken. But over time, a different question surfaced. What if this wasn't a breakdown? What if it was an opening? I began reading, searching, and I discovered a name for it. Sleep paralysis. Science says it's just a sleep state mismatch. Your body is still in REM mode, frozen, so you don't act out your dreams, but your awareness wakes up early. A misfire, that's all. But here's what science doesn't always explain. Why do so many people in different cultures, different eras, see the same thing? A shadow, a presence, a sense of being watched. Even something sitting on your chest. At first, I brushed it off as imagination, but then it happened again, and with each time, something shifted. One night, I stopped fighting it. I didn't panic. I didn't scream inside. I just breathed, stayed still, and noticed that's when everything changed. Suddenly, I felt light, detached, like I was watching my body from somewhere else, like my consciousness had stepped outside of me. That night challenged everything I thought I knew. What if sleep paralysis isn't a flaw? What if it's a threshold? A liminal space, a space between worlds, between matter and meaning, between the seen and the unseen. Some call it sleep disturbance, others an entry point into out-of-body states. I don't claim to have all the answers, but I know this. When your body is frozen, your soul might be trying to move. It taught me something, not to fear every unexplained experience, but to feel it, to ask, where am I, really, and what part of me is awake, even when my body isn't. Sleep paralysis may look like stillness, but inside, it might be the first step into a whole new awareness, because once you've touched that edge, once you've seen what waits in the silence, you're never quite the same. You start to wonder, if I can be aware inside paralysis, can I be aware inside the dream? And that's where we go next. Lucid dreaming, where sleep isn't something that happens to you. It's something you shape. It started quietly. A strange moment in a dream. I looked down and realized I was wearing two different shoes. That's odd, I thought. I never do that. And then the thought hit me. Wait, am I dreaming? In that instant, the whole world changed. The colors brightened. The wind felt real. I could feel the ground beneath my feet. But more than that, I could choose. I raised my hand, and the sky rippled like water. I whispered the name of someone I missed, and they appeared, smiling. It wasn't like watching a movie. It was like stepping behind the camera. Suddenly, I wasn't just inside the dream. I was directing it. That was my first lucid dream, and it changed the way I saw everything. I used to believe dreams were random, meaningless, leftovers from a busy brain. But what if they're not? What if dreams are a canvas? And sometimes we're handed the brush. Lucid dreaming is when you become aware you're dreaming while still inside the dream. And the moment that awareness clicks in, something opens. You can shape landscapes, speak with your subconscious, face fears that used to chase you, and ask them why they came. It's not just about flying or changing the scenery. It's about healing, integration, exploration. In one dream, I stood in front of a younger version of myself. He looked scared. I knelt beside him, told him everything would be okay. I woke up crying, but it wasn't pain. It was release. Lucid dreams aren't always magical. Sometimes they're messy, confusing, emotional. But every time they come, they offer a chance to meet parts of yourself that never get a voice in daylight. And the more I practiced, the easier it became to recognize the signs. Mirrors that don't reflect, books whose pages shift, clocks that never stay still. These became invitations, not glitches, gateways. What I've learned is this: lucid dreaming isn't about control, it's about participation. You're not escaping life. You're engaging with a deeper part of it, the part that whispers while you sleep, the part that holds wisdom your waking mind forgets. And if you've ever had a dream where you felt more alive than in the real world, you've already touched it. The threshold, the moment awareness meets imagination and becomes something more. So, what's the lesson? Don't dismiss those fleeting moments of clarity in your dreams. They might be your inner world asking you to pay attention, to wake up inside yourself. And once you begin to remember what's possible in those dreams, you may start to wonder, if I can create inside sleep, can I begin to heal too? Because there's a place deeper still, where dreams aren't just images, they're memories of something older, of something yours. And that's where we'll go next. The mystery of precognitive dreams. When sleep stops being about imagination and starts becoming a message from beyond time. Have you ever woken up from a dream only to watch it unfold days or weeks later in real life? Not just the feeling, but the people, the place, the words spoken, exactly as they appeared in your sleep. The first time it happened to me, I brushed it off as coincidence. The second time, I felt unsettled. By the third, I began to listen. It was a dream about a friend. In the dream, she was sitting on a bench, crying. I didn't know why, just that I had to find her. A week later, I got a call. Her father had passed. She had gone to the park that morning, to the very bench. Same clothes, same tears. I hadn't told her, but I had seen it before it happened. This kind of dream is called precognitive, a dream that reaches forward, that bypasses logic and touches something timeless. Science doesn't fully understand it. Some say it's coincidence. Others say it's our brain assembling patterns we subconsciously notice. But when you live it, you feel something deeper, not a guess, not an illusion, but a message. Some of the most powerful precognitive dreams in history have come from people with no interest in mysticism. Abraham Lincoln, days before his assassination, dreamed of a funeral at the White House. In the dream, a soldier told him, "The president has been killed." Others, ordinary people, have seen fires, births, accidents, meetings, all before they occurred. So how does this happen? Some say that during sleep, our consciousness slips outside linear time, that we become untethered from the clock, and for a moment, we see along the timeline of possibility. In deep sleep, the part of us that needs calendars and clocks goes silent, and something older, more intuitive, wakes up. I believe the subconscious mind is a river. It remembers more than we realize. And when the noise of the waking world fades, the river speaks. Sometimes in symbols, sometimes in feelings, and sometimes in glimpses of what is yet to come. But there's something important to know. Precognitive dreams aren't about control. They're not a tool to manipulate fate. They're a mirror, a reminder that reality is more fluid than we're taught. That time may not be a straight line, but a circle, a spiral, a living thing we're inside of. What should you do if you have one? First, write it down, even if it seems small or strange. Details fade quickly, but meanings emerge later. Second, don't rush to interpret. Let the dream sit with you. Some things aren't meant to be solved, only felt. And third, pay attention to the feeling that came with it. That's usually where the truth hides. For me, these dreams have become a kind of compass, not a map, but a pull, a soft knowing that what is unfolding has already whispered itself once before. And when you begin to trust that whisper, you stop fearing the unknown because you've already touched it in sleep, in silence. And that brings us to a deeper place still, a stranger place, where the line between dream and other dimension begins to blur. Some dreams feel different, not symbolic, not strange, but real, as if you've been there before, as if the place remembers you. I once dreamed of a city I've never seen on any map. Marble towers, golden light, water that moved like glass. The streets were familiar. The people knew my name. And when I woke up, I felt homesick, but not for this world. That dream stayed with me for years, and it raised a quiet, haunting question. What if some dreams aren't dreams at all? What if they're visits to somewhere else? Science tells us dreams are inner projections, the mind stitching together memory, imagination, emotion, but ancient traditions say otherwise. They say, when we sleep, our consciousness leaves the body. It travels, it explores. Some call it the astral plane, others call it the subtle realm. But the idea is the same. There are worlds beyond this one, and we can reach them in our sleep. I didn't believe that at first, until the dreams became consistent. I kept returning to the same places, the same faces, even the same smells. Sometimes I'd meet someone in waking life and feel as if we'd already met, in a hallway made of starlight, in a temple by the sea. Coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe. Our dreams are the reminders of something our waking mind forgets. Modern quantum theory has its own version of this idea, the multiverse, an infinite series of realities where every possibility plays out. From that lens, every dream could be a window into one of these parallel lives. You dreamed you were a musician. You might be one somewhere else. You dreamed of a family you've never had. Maybe in another strand of the web, you do. This isn't just poetic fantasy. It's a deeply human yearning to believe that this life isn't the whole story, that we are larger than one name, one path, one form, and dreams. Maybe our soul's way of remembering. I once spoke to a woman who told me she kept dreaming of a language she didn't know. Over time, she began to understand it. Symbols, sounds, meaning. She wrote them down. Years later, she visited a remote site in Turkey and saw carvings that matched exactly. She wept, not from fear, but from recognition. Not all dreams are this clear. Some are foggy, half-formed, but even those carry weight. You wake up changed, as if a part of you just returned from somewhere else. So, what does it mean? Maybe when we sleep, the boundaries loosen, time bends, space opens, and for a few hours, our soul stretches its legs and wanders home. If that's true, then perhaps sleep isn't escape. It's remembrance, not of fiction, but of origin. And if you've ever dreamed a place that doesn't exist, what if it does? Just not here. As we move forward, we'll explore one more frontier of sleep, when time stops making sense, and we begin to understand just how deeply our dreams reshape our idea of reality itself. Have you ever woken from a dream, convinced you'd lived an entire day, or even a whole life, only to glance at the clock and realize it had barely been 20 minutes? That's not your imagination. It's not a fluke. It's something deeper. In dreams, time changes shape. One night, I dreamed of growing old, of watching my child take her first steps, of walking alone beside the sea as my hair turned gray. A full life, moments of sorrow, joy, stillness. And then I woke up. The sun hadn't even risen yet. I lay there in silence, holding memories that weren't mine. And yet, they were. It felt realer than yesterday. So why does this happen? In waking life, time is linear. Tick, tick, tick. Seconds stacked on seconds, measured, predictable. But in dreams, that structure melts. A single second can stretch into hours, or an entire conversation can collapse into a blink. You're not remembering time. You're feeling it. Scientists call this temporal distortion, but that term doesn't capture the sacredness of it. Because in dreams, you don't just experience events, you absorb them, whole, like a breath that holds a lifetime inside. This makes me wonder, if time can bend inside the dream, can it also bend inside the soul? Many ancient cultures believed that dream time is soul time, that what you experience there isn't bound by the same rules as physical existence. The Aboriginal people of Australia call it the dream time, a place outside of linear time, where past, present, and future exist as one. Shamans speak of dream journeys that span centuries. While only an hour passes in our world, And maybe that's why some dreams leave such a heavy imprint, not because they're long, but because they are deep. This has real implications. It means that healing, growth, forgiveness, all of it, can happen faster than we think. Because in dream time, a single insight can unravel years of pain. A single symbol can rewire the way you see yourself. But here's the lesson I learned. Don't judge the value of a dream by how long it lasted. Judge it by how it moved you, how it stayed with you after you woke. Because when time dissolves, what remains is truth. So the next time you wake from what feels like a lifetime, don't ask, how long was I asleep? Ask, what part of me just woke up? And in the final chapter of our journey, we'll explore what happens when we forget our dreams and why that forgetting may be its own kind of wisdom. You open your eyes. There's a feeling, a trace of something beautiful or terrifying or strange. You know, you dreamed, but the images slip away, faster than water through your hands, gone, like mist in sunlight. Why do we forget? Why do the dreams that once felt like entire lifetimes disappear as soon as we return to this world? I used to feel frustrated. Some dreams felt so important, as if they carried a message, and I had just missed it. I would lie still, eyes closed, reaching back into the dark, trying to pull pieces forward, a color, a sound, a single word. Most mornings, I was left with nothing but a feeling. But over time, I started to see forgetting not as a failure, but as part of the design, because maybe we're not supposed to remember everything. From a scientific view, the hippocampus, the part of the brain that stores memory, works differently during REM sleep. It's like the dream never gets stamped into long-term storage. But from a spiritual lens, some traditions believe that dreams are soul journeys, not meant to be fully remembered by the conscious mind, but felt in the body, in the heart. They say the dream gives you exactly what you need, even if you don't understand it yet. Have you ever made a decision based on a feeling you couldn't explain, or walked away from something because of a deep knowing that came out of nowhere? Sometimes that's the dream speaking. Even if you don't remember the story, the wisdom remains. There's something sacred about this. The idea that your soul is always working, even when your mind is still. That healing can happen without you needing to witness every step. It reminds me of seeds. They grow underground, in silence, in darkness. We don't see the roots take hold. But one day, something breaks through the surface. So now, when I forget a dream, I try not to force it back. Instead, I sit quietly and ask myself, what's different in me today? Sometimes the change is subtle, a lighter mood, a new clarity, a softened fear. Sometimes the dream didn't need words, just space. And here's the truth. You don't need to remember the whole dream for it to change you. You don't need to decode every symbol. To become more awake, your soul knows what it's doing. Trust that. So if you wake tomorrow with only a whisper in your chest, don't be discouraged. That whisper may be the beginning of something much greater. And with that, we reach the end of this journey, a journey through the strange, sacred spaces we visit when we sleep. But maybe it's not an ending at all. Maybe it's an invitation to listen more closely, to feel more deeply, to honor the hidden places within us that still remember what the waking world forgets. Thank you for being here. Thank you for going deep. If this journey stirred something in you, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Let us know. What do your dreams try to tell you? And if you'd like to keep exploring together, subscribe to the channel and join us as we continue to uncover what lies beneath the surface of this waking life. Before you go, take a moment, close your eyes, breathe. Let everything we've just explored settle into the quiet places of your being. This wasn't just a video, it was a journey inward to the hidden landscapes of the soul. to the places we visit when the world sleeps. If any part of this spoke to you, if you've felt the presence of something greater in a dream, or noticed yourself changing in ways you can't explain, you are not alone. There's a community here of seekers, of dreamers, of those walking the path back to themselves. So I invite you, gently, without pressure, to subscribe, to stay close, to walk this journey together. And if you feel moved, share your thoughts below. A memory, a question, a single sentence you carried from your dream. You never know who might need to hear it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for trusting this space. Until next time, sleep softly, dream deeply, and listen to what your soul is trying to remember